How did a land of tribes become the soul of civilization?
Beneath the soil, echoes of forgotten kingdoms still breathe. Every dawn begins with silence, every nation with a dream. Before crowns and cathedrals, there was only wind and wave. The heart of France was once a wild and whispering forest.
Stone and spirit marked the first boundaries of belonging.
Rivers carried both life and legend through the veins of Gaul. Firelight drew stories on the walls before words were written. From wilderness to wonder, the journey had quietly begun. In mist, the first homes of France took root in hope. Light became their faith, long before temples of stone. Every age begins with someone looking beyond the horizon. In quiet valleys, destiny hums beneath the soil.
The river remembers all who dreams are propped upon its banks.
Even ruins can whisper the truth of beginnings.
A new sun rose over the ancient heart of Europe. Meaning was carved before language was born.
France began not in conquest, but in the breath of dawn.
From mountain to shore, this land learned to endure. Life moved before kings, guided only by the sun. Rivers are the memory of a land that learns to dream. Time guards its secrets in the quiet breath of stone. Flame became the first cathedral of man's hope. In every shimmer of light, the story of France begins anew. Where shadow ends, the age of light begins. Even the quiet fields remember ancient footsteps. Towers rose not for power, but for prayer to the dawn. Beauty was born here, between silence, stone, and sky. From mist to morning, the heart of a nation awoke. And so began the long journey, from Gaul to glory. Before France had a name, it had roots deep in sacred earth. The tribes of Gaul lived by the rhythm of soil and storm. From fire and metal, they forged both weapon and will. Every tree was a temple, every wind a whisper of gods. Villages rose like constellations across the fertile valleys of Gaul. The Druids held power not by sword, but by knowledge of the unseen. Circles of stone marked where heaven once met earth. Before armor, they wore courage and color. The tribes fought not for conquest, but for belonging. Rivers mirrored both peace and blood beneath their calm. A leader's gaze carried the weight of countless winters. The call of Gaul rose like thunder before the storm of Rome.
And then, the eagles came from the south.
iron met faith in a clash that would shape an age. The wars of Gaul were written in lightning and blood. From ashes rose the first memories of defiance. Rome had won the land, but never its soul. Chains could bind the body, never the spirit of the land.
Old stones listened as two worlds collided. The empire carved its order into the wild heart of Gaul.
Civilization grew like marble upon roots of clay.
Rome taught them to write, but not what to believe.
Between conqueror and conquered, a new culture was born. The vines of Gaul drank both Roman wine and Celtic rain.
Stones of entertainment stood upon fields of memory.
The old gods retreated, but their whispers endured. One faith faded, another awaited its dawn.
The land itself began to breathe with new rhythm.
Progress flowed like water, reshaping the valley's veins. Empire's light flickered at the edges of its reach. Messengers carried not words, but worlds between cultures. From conquered soil, new life began to grow again. Identities mixed, and the seed of France was sown. Comfort rose beside conquest, beauty amid control. Elegance bloomed where rebellion once burned. Knowledge replaced fear, yet pride never died.
In the heart of Gaul, Paris began as a promise.
The Seine carried whispers of destiny toward the dawn.
Shadow and light shaped the birth of a civilization.
Rome taught discipline. Gaul taught resilience.
Time blurred the line between conqueror and conquered. Empires rise beneath skies that never belonged to them. The marble cracked, but the spirit of Gaul endured. Nature reclaims what ambition forgets. From ruin, resilience of Hundenkt. From silence, song. A new faith was dawning, fragile yet eternal. The soul of Gaul turned its gaze toward heaven.
Faith became the thread that bound the broken land.
Where once stood stones of war, now rose temples of peace.
The age of Gaul was ending. A kingdom was awakening.
Light replaced blood as the new offering of men.
The land healed under faith and fire.
From ashes of empire, a people found their voice. Words replaced wounds, and history began to write itself.
Old and new embraced in the door of France.
The seed of kingship stirred in the soil of Gaul.
Out of ruin rose faith, and from faith, power. A new chapter awaited the crown of faith.
From gold to glory, the first kingdom is near. Thus began the Age of Kings and the soul of France.
Out of faithless ruins, men began to build toward heaven.
Silence became a song, and song became prayer. Light itself became the language of devotion.
Words of faith rewrote the story of a broken land.
One king dreamed of unity, a crown bound by the cross.
Power bowed before faith. The age of kings had begun. Charlemagne forged an empire where spirit met steel. The weight of a crown was measured not in gold, but in grace. In faith, kings found legitimacy. In God, eternity. Across kingdoms, faith became the bridge of hearts. Salvation was sought not by sword, but by surrender.
Monks built sanctuaries between earth and eternity.
Art became worship, and color the mirror of divinity. Beneath the earth, faith kept its silent flame.
He ruled not by fear, but by the promise of order divine.
His sword bore the seal of heaven and the burden of empire. Faith was not a refuge. It was the banner itself. Knowledge and holiness entwined in ink and light.
The rhythm of prayer guided both plough and king.
Architecture became faith made visible.
Every window told what hearts could not speak.
To build was to believe. To endure was to worship.
These were not mere walls. They were prayers in stone.
Every battle began with a plea for divine mercy.
The sword and the scripture walked side by side.
Light burned to remind them, every moment is sacred.
Peace was cultivated as carefully as the vine. Generations labored so their souls might touch heaven. Every strike of stone was a prayer in motion. And in Paris, the dream of heaven took shape in stone. Light danced, as if God himself had entered the room.
Ritual became rhythm, binding man and divine.
Above the city, faith looked down upon ambition. In the smallest lights burned the hope of nations. Stillness became the language of devotion. Ideas spread like light through the quiet halls of faith.
Across valleys, faith became the road itself.
To open the door of faith was to enter eternity.
Stone by stone,
France reached for heaven. The air shimmered with centuries of prayer. Beauty was the vessel through which truth could travel.
Sound itself became an act of reverence. Each morning rose to the rhythm of faith. Even power sought peace in the house of God. Sacrifice defined them, not conquest, but compassion. In simple acts, eternity revealed its grace.
Paris became not just capital, but cathedral of spirit.
Faith's fire burned quiet, but never dimmed.
His empire ended, but his light endured.
From shadow to radiance, the Spirit moved forward. Faith had crowned the land with heaven's reflection. The night glowed with prayers of 1,000 souls. Fragments of belief became treasures of eternity.
The next generation carried the same sacred flame. Faith mirrored itself in both stone and water. Morning light baptized the kingdom in gold. The word became both law and light.
Heaven echoed through mortal voice.
A nation of faith had taken its first breath. The light of faith would soon give birth to art and reason. After centuries of prayer, the Spirit turned its gaze to beauty. Stone, once built for defense, now sang the poetry of form. Color became the new scripture of the soul. Walls blossomed into visions of divine imagination.
Knowledge returned, written in elegance and fire.
Minds awakened, and France rediscovered its voice.
Geometry met grace, and kings built dreams in stone.
Flesh was reborn in stone, and gods walked again.
Curiosity replaced fear. Discovery became faith.
Heaven itself descended into the realm of art. Order found beauty. Beauty revealed divine proportion.
Music carried the echo of divine harmony, reborn.
Even the river began to dream in color.
Knowledge no longer belonged to kings alone.
Humanity rediscovered its face within the mirror of art. The city of faith became the city of creation.
Thought took root, and the Renaissance began to breathe.
Ideas clashed like swords, but for light, not power.
Light itself became the art of the age.
The Renaissance dawned, and France awakened to wonder.
The age of light had given birth to the fire of revolution.
Whispers of freedom grew louder than the bells of kings.
A storm was coming his bane, not of nature, but of will. The fortress of tyranny trembled before the breath of the people.
On that day, fear was conquered by the courage of hunger. France was reborn, baptized in the fire of revolution.
3 colors, 1 soul, liberty, equality, fraternity.
Words became weapons, sharper than any blade.
A new order rose, born not of kings, but of men.
The revolution devoured hearts, even as it freed them.
Hope burned, yet did not die in the chaos.
From the ashes of disorder, a soldier rose to command destiny.
He saw in empire what others saw in eternity.
Glory thundered through Europe under one man's will. Speed became faith. Victory became scripture. Fire crowned the empire with its own kind of divinity.
The flag endured, a prayer of blood and belief. He carried France like a torch through the storm.
The Republic crowned its own emperor, paradox made flesh. Power, once divine, now belonged to ambition.
The Empire of Glory had begun its march.
Stone was raised to honor both victory and vanity.
Genius often dances with madness upon the map of ambition.
Glory was bought with the currency of youth.
He wrote his empire in letters of fire and resolve.
Greatness always demands a silent sacrifice.
Mafia of empire.
Even the invincible must kneel before nature.
Empire turned its gaze home, wounded but unbroken.
Glory, once golden, had darkened to dust.
He dreamt of immortality, but found only exile.
Even in defeat, destiny whispered his name again.
The eagle rose once more from the ashes of memory.
But even suns must set, and glory must fall.
The dream of empire met the weight of earth.
He was emperor of silence now, and of memory. Exile became his empire, and solitude his throne. He wrote not for conquest, but for redemption.
The sun set on one man, but not on France.
From empire's ruin, the Republic's heart still beat.
Stone remembers what history tries to forget.
Even in death, He stands beneath a sky of fire.
Glory had passed, but pride remained eternal.
Greatness, once lived, becomes legend in silence. Gold returned to glass, power to beauty.
The empire's ghost glittered among chandeliers of memory. After war, France sought immortality in art.
Glory changed form, from cannon to canvas.
Music became the empire that conquered the heart.
The palace of kings became the temple of beauty.
Victory now belonged to those who created, not destroyed.
The stage replaced the throne, imagination the crown.
Creation became France's new conquest. The city glowed again, a phoenix reborn from revolution.
Empire turned to elegance, conquest to charm.
Grace replaced war as the rhythm of greatness.
Memory stewed eternal, carved in marble and fire.
His silence became the anthem of destiny fulfilled.
The empire fell, but the idea of France rose higher. Time turned conquest into contemplation.
The revolution's words outlived its wars.
Paris became the new empire of art, thought, and light. The brush replaced the blade as France's greatest weapon.
Words rebuilt what war had torn apart.
Grandeur was reborn sank, not by might, but by mind.
The city of revolution had become the city of radiance.
The dream of iron and sky was already being drawn.
A new empire of invention and vision began to rise. Progress carried the same fire that once fueled revolution.
France lifted its light higher than ever before.
The new soldiers of France built with iron, not gunpowder.
The spirit of empire returned in the shape of art. From monarchy to modernity, glory had changed its form.
France no longer conquered the world, it inspired it.
The heart of empire still beat, now in steel and song.
The city of kings had become the light of all.
Liberty herself now bore the crown of France.
The empire's flame became a beacon to the future. From fire to iron, from kings to light, France endured.
The empire of light began where the empire of kings had ended. Fire was tamed once more, this time for progress, not war. Iron reached higher than prayer and touched the modern sky. Movement became the heartbeat of a restless century.
The city of blood and revolution now shimmered in peace.
The eye of invention turned beauty into memory.
Where kings once built palaces, artists built eternity.
France stood as the stage upon which light itself performed. The spirit of empire lived on, not in conquest, but creation. And so the fire of glory became the dawn of modern France.
Every golden age must one day walk into shadow.
The scent of progress carried the dust of decay.
Machines replaced men, but not their hunger for purpose.
The land that once birthed glory now fed only survival.
Liberty flickered, but never died, beneath the smoke of unrest.
Hope wore rags, yet still walked upright.
Even in rain, France still reflected its colors of courage.
The fire of war returned, hidden first in the forge.
Words carried love across trenches of silence. They left as sons and returned as ghosts.
The age of machines became the age of mourning.
The sky itself wept with every cannon's cry. Heroism learned to crawl through the mud of reality. The earth bore the wounds of an entire generation.
In the smallest flame, men found fragments of peace.
Each shimmer was a life suspended between hope and horror.
Verdun, where courage became the measure of eternity. Love melted into earth, but its words endured.
The guns fell quiet, but the echoes would never fade.
Victory looked like grief with a medal pinned upon it.
The war had ended, but not the war within. France wept, and from her tears grew remembrance.
Borders changed, but sorrow ignored them all.
Laughter returned, fragile, desperate, and divine.
For home. Music drowned out memory.
Joy became rebellion, a refusal to forget. But beneath the rhythm of progress, shadows gathered once more.
The storm returned angrily, sharper, darker, relentless.
The world held its breath as France prepared to stand again.
Stone walls rose, where faith alone once stood.
The light of progress became the flame of destruction. Home became a memory carried in silence.
Even the city of light
learned the taste of darkness. Freedom survived in ink, whispers, and defiance. In the shadows, the heartbeat of France refused to die.
Courage wore no uniform. It wore humanity.
Even the smallest flame can blind tyranny. Hope returned, carried on the wings of liberation. Freedom landed upon the sands of sacrifice. Liberty rose again, Raphi, bruised but unbroken.
The city awoke to the roar of redemption.
Joy returned like thunder after centuries of rain. Love conquered what fear could not.
The heart of France beat once more beneath the light.
Victory and ruin shared the same horizon.
Faith endured even when the steeples fell.
Freedom always counts its blessings in names.
France stood, scarred, silent, and sovereign. From defeat to deliverance, the spirit never surrendered.
Every dawn since has carried their memory in light. The ruins became foundations for rebirth.
The flag still shimmered, soaked but unbowed. Hope became the mortar between broken stones.
Life returned like laughter after long silence.
They did not yield, and so France endured.
Reconstruction was its own kind of revolution.
Beauty bloomed again from the soil of sorrow.
The nation stood together, fragile but whole.
Through smoke and rain, the light refused to fade. Memory became France's final fortress. The city shimmered fines, scarred, sacred, eternal.
And from ruin rose the promise of renewal. Life, once stolen by war, returned with laughter.
Liberty smiled again beneath the rain. France endured, wounded, wiser, and awake.
Even the stones seemed to breathe again.
This flag had survived empires, wars, and time itself.
The heart of France beat anew, steady, sovereign, strong. Peace returned, fragile yet magnificent.
Beneath its arch, every shadow found forgiveness.
The legacy of courage passed quietly to innocence.
Their voices carried what armies could not.
The rivers flowed again, not with war, but with wonder.
He had seen darkness and lived to see the dawn. The cost was great, but the soul was greater still. The storm had passed, and light fight reigned once more.
Through every war, one truth remained Meiju. France endures.
Memory burns brighter than victory itself.
From ruin to radiance, the circle of history closed.
Out of war's ashes, the light of peace was born anew.
After the storm, France awoke tone, bruised, but beautifully alive.
The city of pain became again the city of light. Life returned in colors brighter than sorrow.
Steel and sky embraced, symbols of endurance reborn.
Peace found its rhythm in the footsteps of the living. Art rose again as France painted its soul anew.
Joy became resistance. To forget was to die. Hands rebuilt what hearts refused to abandon.
A nation's pride stood tall in quiet defiance.
Liberty no longer shouted, it simply breathed.
The age of ashes became the age of illumination.
Words became bridges to a world rebuilt by wisdom.
France began to dream again, this time on screen.
Cameras replaced cannons. Stories replaced scars.
Hope found its face in every flicker of film.
The artists returned, carrying the light within them.
Creation was again the language of freedom.
Elegance became France's quiet revolution.
Beauty, too, became an act of defiance.
The city glowed like a memory refusing to fade.
The old world rebuilt itself trot, this time with vision.
Glass replaced marble, but the spirit stayed the same.
History was polished, not erased. The past and future met in perfect reflection.
Beauty, once again, belonged to the people.
Music became the heartbeat of rebirth.
The city itself sang, softly, eternally, in gold.
Even in peace, France demanded more than silence.
Liberty evolved, not as war, but as will.
Every generation must redraw the line of freedom.
And yet, every storm left the city shining brighter. France stood united, proud of its scars, proud of its light.
Every soul became a storyteller of liberty.
The city never slept, it simply dreamed awake.
Words, once again, became France's greatest weapon.
Every thought began like a sunrise in a cup.
Modern life pulsed with the same rhythm as history. The city of light
lived up to its name once more. Inspiration flickered between memory and modernity. Each morning rose upon a freer world. The land evolved, but never forgot its roots.
From grape to glass, heritage whispered resilience.
Creation remained the truest expression of peace.
Paris sang again, softly, defiantly, joyfully.
The city glimmered like a crown of living light. Elegance became the echo of endurance. Beauty was no longer royal, it was shared. The present bowed gracefully before the past.
In darkness, France remembered how to dream.
The light of art reached hearts no empire could touch.
The nation found its crown not in conquest, but culture.
Peace shimmered in the smallest reflections. Every brushstroke was a hymn to freedom.
Even wounded, faith found beauty again.
The nation's colors now stood for unity, not war.
The pen remained mightier than the crown or cannon.
Democracy, once fragile, stood firm in the light.
The soul of France stretched from mountain to sea. Freedom lived again, in hands unscarred by war.
The city glowed, not from conquest, but compassion.
Joy became France's final revolution. In every toast, they remembered survival as celebration. The city of light shimmered in eternal dusk and dawn. Creation remained France's quiet prayer to tomorrow. The river carried centuries of dreams toward eternity.
Music turned memory into movement once again.
Love, France's oldest revolution, never ended. The night whispered peace, and the dawn replied in gold. From ruin to radiance. From empire to empathy. France still led freely, not by conquest, but by conscience. The same sun that burned in war now powered peace.
Knowledge had become the nation's new crown.
The idea endured. Draf. Liberty as heritage, equality as destiny. The light of France rose higher than ever before.
The spirit of a nation mirrored perfectly in light.
Every ending here feels like a beginning. Beauty and wisdom, twin flames of France eternal.
The city still breathes, slow, sacred, and alive.
Through centuries of shadow, her light endured. And so the light continues. This is modern France.
Every story ends where it began.
The city breathes as gently as a memory reborn.
The flag is not cloth, It is the pulse of a people.
From faith to freedom, the sound has never ceased.
The heart of France still rises every morning with the sun.
Between every bridge lies a century of love and loss. The past does not die. It simply learns to shine quieter.
Ideas once whispered, now illuminate the world. The future stands small now, but tall in spirit.
From valley to vineyard, France still whispers faith.
Her borders may end, but her spirit has no shore.
The light of honor never dims, only deepens.
Memory stands eternal, carved in marble and mercy.
Light enters every home that once knew darkness. Even peace carries the echo of revolution.
The future walks hand in hand with the past here.
To create is to remember is to live.
The Trinity of France, not just words, but a vow.
Beauty became her anthem, harmony her crown.
Here, peace feels like a prayer whispered by time.
The young learn freedom by tracing the cost of it.
It burns for all who carried light through darkness. Every dawn paints forgiveness over history's wounds. Beauty and strength, the twin pillars of her soul.
The masterpiece is not the art, it is the endurance.
Her flag, her faith, her fire, forever one.
Light is the only empire that never falls. Freedom has always worn the face of courage.
This land has been broken, rebuilt, and blessed.
Empires fade, but the light endures.
Every reflection holds a fragment of eternity.
Hope ascends of thee, quietly, endlessly.
From goal to glory, her light became legend.
The heart of civilization still beats on this soil.
The sacred and the simple, both made of light.
Faith and freedom, forever in dialogue beneath the dawn.
The sun of France still rises me.
Empires fall, but the heart of France still shines in the light.